walk through this. So those are our session spotlights. So for every session in this book, you'll see that we provide a list of all the materials you'll need. So if you flip the page to page 2.2, that lists all the materials. As Audrey said, all of those will be there for you at the school. And then we also provide a session at a glance. So that's kind of a brief agenda of what the session is going to look like. So for session 2, it's on page 2.3, and that's what this is. So you'll always start with an opening with your students, so that's getting them to kind of think about something they learned in the past and then linking that to what you're going to talk about that day. So for this opening, it'll be kind of a recap of the first session. So the first session is in your book here. So for those of you who weren't able to be there last month, you can take a look and kind of get an idea of what they talked about. Then we're trying to incorporate more icebreakers too. So this is a nice way for you to kind of break the ice with the students, get to know them a little better. So this one for this session is called the No Card Snowball Fight. So it should be kind of fun. Then the second activity here is Understanding My Strengths. So this will build on the Naviance assessment that they would have taken. They will have taken or have already taken by the time you meet with them. And we'll walk you through kind of what that'll look like. So there's 3 Naviance assessments they take throughout the year, and then we have activities that kind of help them figure out more about what that means, that information they learned, what does that mean for them. We always incorporate a break as well, so we want this to give the students a break and to give you a break too. 3 hours is a long time. Then we have Understanding the Career Clusters, and Kelly from Junior Achievement is here with us today. She's going to walk you through how to facilitate that, and that's a really nice activity where the students get to get up and go around the room and look at the different careers that are available. And then Letter to My Future Self. So this is that future thinking. We're trying to get them to think about what they want their lives to look like. And this is kind of based on the idea that 10 years, this is maybe what I want my life to look like. And so we added that in here. And then we always do a closing. So the closing is a time for some, like a debrief, kind of recap what you learned, what they learned that session, and then give them a little time to reflect on what they've learned. Okay? Okay, so if you want to follow along with the book, now I'm going to move on to the opening, which is page 2.5. So like I said, these openings are really meant to bridge previous knowledge to what we're going to talk about. So you always kind of start with a recap of what you talked about the last time. And so last time, the session 1 was called Check Your Identity. And so they made a personal brand, and the activity's in here so you can look it over. But you want to kind of get students to think about that again and get them talking about, like, what did they learn about that, and remind them about that. Then you review the agenda for session 2, which is that session at a glance we just talked about. And then this year we're also trying to get students to journal a bit as part of this program. So on your tables, or you would have received this earlier as well if you were with us before, every student is going to receive a True2U journal this year. And so these are in the session 2 material envelopes that are already at the schools. And so for most of the sessions, we're going to try and build in a little journal prompt at the beginning of each session. So on page 2.5, so this is where you'll pass out the journals to all the students. They have not received these yet, so they'll get them during this session. And then you can say something like, we ended last session thinking about our personal brands, and today we'll begin by thinking about what we've learned about ourselves since the last time we met. So we're really trying to get them to think about, you know, this isn't like a once-a-month thing. I can just think about who I am when I'm with my mentors. Like, let's keep building on that throughout the month, even when the mentors aren't there. And so this journal prompt is really getting them to think about, okay, I learned that stuff last month. Now, how did I apply that in this previous month that I didn't see my mentors? Or what else have I learned about myself this month? So have them write their names on it, really important, of course. And then, you know, what did they learn about themselves within the last month? So it could be something you were thinking about after creating your brand, or it could be something you did that surprised yourself, or just something little, just getting them to kind of keep thinking about these themes. And, you know, we don't want this to be like really challenging for the students either. So, you know, Audrey spoke about like the differing levels of literacy among the students that we're working with. So we don't want this to be something that they struggle with, but even it just just put down a few bullet points or something. And really as mentors, you can kind of walk around and assist them with that too. Okay? So just kind of engaging their thinking there. So you give them a few minutes to write about something and then maybe ask 2 or 3 to share what they've written down. Okay? And then also every session we are starting with a little passage from Stedman Graham's 9 Steps to Success. So for this session, we're starting on page 18 of this book, and we're getting them to see that we're going to work on check your identity again, which is his first step. So he says he has 9 steps to how to be successful. The first one is you really have to know yourself. And then his second step, which is on page 18 in this little book, is create your vision. So that letter to their future self that they're going to do at the end of that lesson, that's starting to get them to think about creating their vision. So we always like to read a little passage from here. So what I've chosen today is your vision is your life's destination. It helps you realize and explore your dreams and aspirations. It keeps you focused and helps minimize distractions. It can determine your greatness. A well-defined vision enables you to set meaningful goals for your business or personal life. How do you envision your future and what's possible for you? Okay? And so all students received one of these at the first session. So you can hand these back out at the beginning of the session and have them follow along with you as you read it, if you'd like to do that. That passage is also written in your curriculum book too, so you don't have to go find a little book if you don't want to. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. Then the snow card snowball fight. So this again is meant to be a fun activity, and there are note cards on your tables. Thank you. And then there are note cards already at the schools in your session envelopes. And how this works is everybody gets a note card, and then everyone writes down some little fact about themselves that not many people know, but that they would feel comfortable sharing. Okay? And so they write that down, and then once they write that down, crumble it up, and then you throw it somewhere in the room. Okay? And you might need to emphasize that you should not be throwing these at your classmates. And then what happens then is there's all these like little snowballs on the ground, and then every person gets to pick up one that isn't theirs. They read it out loud, and then they have 3 guesses as to who wrote that. Okay? And we would like the mentors to participate in this as well. So again, you're getting the students to know you better, you're getting to know the students better, and you know, it's meant to be a fun activity to get to know each other a little better. Okay? So I think we've written in about 15 minutes for that. But as you'll find with our curriculum, this really is meant to be a guideline. Okay? So we set these activities up for you, we give you all the materials you need, but you know, some things might work better than others. And so if something's working really well and you need to spend 25 minutes to get through all these note cards, that's okay. Don't stress about it. Just kind of, you're going to have to go with the flow on something like that. Okay? That's basically this game, right? So just to get to know each other a little better. Okay? Okay. And then after that, so after they've had like a little fun with that, we move into understanding my personal strengths. So this is the activity based on the Naviance assessment they will have taken. And again, that's like this online portal that they can go into, and kind of just like a online personality test that they take. So I sent out the Naviance credentials for the mentors today, so you should have received yours. If you didn't get that email, talk to me afterwards and we'll get that sorted out. But that's so that you can go online into Naviance and you can take the assessment too, so that when you go into those classes and work with the students, you know what they've done, you know what it's all about, you can have your results, so you can, you know, if someone comes up and says, one of the students says, oh, I got caring, you can say, oh, I got that as one of mine too, and then you can, again, bond with them around that. So it's like this online personality test. Basically, they come up at the end with 3 top strengths of theirs based on how they answered the questions. And so what we've done is we've created this poster. So every cohort should get 2 of these. And what it does is it lists all the different strengths. So these are all the possible answers that the students could have gotten. A smaller version of this is also in your books if you want to look. It's on on page 2.16, I think. So it lists them all, and so some of them are achieving, or organizer, or relating. And so to start out this lesson, you kind of want to go through with them what all of these mean. So they're listed in your curriculum book, and then you'll have these posters, and kind of as you're describing each one, you can kind of, point to it and kind of go through it with the students. Okay? The students, again, will have found out what their top 3 are, and those results will get emailed out to your whole mentor team. Everyone at the school will get the results, so that when you go in next Thursday, you'll for sure know what the students got on their assessments. Sometimes students are absent though when people go out to do Navient, so again, that's one of those things where we kind of ask for a little adaptability on your part. And if that happens, if someone hasn't done it, you can ask them, well, going over these definitions, which ones do you think are your top 3? And then we'll go back and circle around the students and make sure they get to do the assessment, but just in case someone doesn't have it done. Okay? So you go through all of these, so like achieving are people who like to accomplish things and have a great deal of energy, caring, those who enjoy helping others. So right now they're just kind of learning these terms, they're learning who they are, but then we're going to get them to kind of link that to, well, maybe I should look at careers where I can use my strengths if I'm interested in doing that. So if I got caring, and I got organizer, and I got relating, well, maybe I need to maybe look at education, because then I get to help people, I get to organize lessons, things like that. Okay? So that's kind of the idea behind this, but this, you're just kind of use the poster, walk through what it means. Then, in each student's True2U tracker, they have worksheets, and your worksheets for each thing that they have in the tracker are located in the back of this session. So page 2.17 is the first worksheet. So the first one is reflecting on my personal strengths. So now the students have gotten their 3 answers to this personality test, and then we're going to walk them through, well, what does that really mean? So the first question is, which strength do you agree with most and why? And then the second is, which strength surprised you and why? And so each student will have their own booklet, and they can fill out the worksheet in the booklet. And they do that on their own, but again, you want to kind of walk around and facilitate them filling that out, kind of assist them as needed. So you do that, they do that individually, and then they share with the person sitting next to them what they wrote down. Like, what were they thinking about? Do they really agree with the fact that they're caring, or do they think, you know what, I'm really not that caring. I wish I was more, but it's really not who I am. Okay, just kind of have those kinds of conversations. So they share. Then they also will have Post-it notes. So all the groups will have Post-it notes, and you pass out 3 Post-it notes to each student. And on these 3, they write their name. So on every single one, the 3 that they get, they write their name. And then what you can do, once they've done that, is you have these posters, and you have them come stick their name on whichever strength they have. Okay, and then they'll get to see what their classmates are, and they get to see everyone has different strengths. But that doesn't, everyone contributes to the greater good or whatever. So it's just kind of a nice visual, and then the teacher could even hang this up in the classroom if they want, and they can always be reminded if they're having a bad day, no wait, what, I'm strong, I'm an achiever, I can do this. So that's the idea there, okay? So every student gets 3 Post-its, and then they just kind of all get to come up and put it on the poster where they are. Any questions on that so far?
Molly, would you be able to email the results out to us so that if a student or teacher doesn't know, we have a reference?
Yeah, so you will get an email.
Okay.
Next week. Yeah, you'll get one next week. And then the students, some of them have been reporting their results as well. Some of them will rely on the email that you have for the results, but we can, we'll help facilitate that. But yeah, you will get an email for all of the students at the school. So we won't be able to divide by cohort, but you can go in and find your students when you get there. Okay, so once you've done the poster piece, then you'll divide the group into 3 groups based on the most common strength themes in the group. So I know for our summer program students, and I think generally for a lot of the 8th graders, there were a lot of future thinkers that we had. And so we want to kind of have them, so once they get there, they know their 3, but then we want to see like within the group, what are the top 3 within the group. And then we want to kind of group the students together so they can learn even more about what those strengths mean, those top 3. So you'll see that through kind of when they put their names on here, you'll be able to figure out, we have 9 caring individuals in here, so that's definitely one you want to explore further. So you get them into 3 groups based on the top 3. And then as those small groups, those small 3 groups, they go to the next worksheet, which is page 2.18 in your book. And again, that's in their tracker. And then they think about how can they use their strengths. So they'll be assigned a strength talent theme by you, so that would be, future thinker might be one. Okay, so that small group is going to work on future thinker. And then within the group, they answer the following questions, and then they would select one person from their small group to share out to the larger group once they've completed it. So the first question is, how can this strength theme be used during 8th grade? All right, so within my group, I'm talking about, let's say we're talking about being caring. So our strength theme is caring. So within our small group, we're going to think about, well, how can we use the theme of caring? How can we use the strength of caring to benefit us in 8th grade? So maybe we're going to build a really good relationship with our teacher. We're going to show her we're caring. We're going to maybe do something extra for her. Or, just kind of whatever the students want to come up with. And as mentors, you can kind of move around to the different groups and help facilitate them talking about these different ideas. Okay? And then the next question is, how would this strength theme be useful as you moved into high school? So if you're a future thinker and you're focused on future thinking for your theme, how can you use that theme in high school? So maybe it's, as soon as I get to 9th grade, I can plan out my schedule and I can think about what would be good for me in a post-secondary option, and I can start planning because I'm thinking about the future and thinking about what I want to do. Okay, so things like that. 3, brainstorm the type of careers that fit well with this strength talent theme. Okay, so again, if we're on caring, well, maybe I should look at nursing, or maybe I should look at social work, or something like that. So trying, again, as a mentor, facilitate those ideas. Well, this is the strength talent theme of future thinker. What might be some careers that would match up with that? So maybe it's be an entrepreneur, start your own business. Just kind of get them thinking about those things. And then number 4 is describe a person who you believe represents this strength. How would you describe the person? What are some of the things they do? Okay? So again, let's go back to caring. So maybe they think that their teacher is very caring, or someone at their school, or their parent, or something like that. We'll get them to really think like in a concrete, tangible way, how does this person act? And it demonstrates those traits of caring or a future thinker. Okay? So it's trying to get them to apply this to real life. So they have these ideas, they know these terms, but what does it really mean? So how can we use those terms? Okay. Any questions on that? So you complete that in the small group, and then you have the small group share out. So that way, when one group is sharing, the other 2 groups who didn't focus on that theme will get to hear about those ideas. So they're really getting more in-depth information about 3 themes rather than the one that their small group just worked on. And then you come together as a whole group, so after the sharing, and do a reflection. So you talk about what is a personal strength, why is it important for you to know what your strengths are, and then what are some strength themes you might want to develop further. So you got these 3 answers, but maybe you didn't get caring, but you really want to work on that. So you can talk about that and how everyone is always growing, so it's always a process, and you can work on different strengths that you choose to. Okay, and then the very last piece of this activity, so the students will have been working in this True2U tracker, that's where their worksheets are. The beginning of the tracker is where they're really able to keep a nice record of specific things that they're learning throughout this program. So this is where you introduce them to their Who I Am page of the tracker, which is the inside cover. And this is where they can write kind of as a finalized version of something they've learned. So these first 3 lines say I am a, and then it says list a strength. So they get to list their top 3 strengths here. So we want to make sure we try and get this recorded for them. Because I already talked about those Who I Am t-shirts at the end of the year. That this is where the students will go to get that information that they're going to put on the t-shirt. So it's a nice place to have it just one place.
So it'll say like I am Karen or I am a teacher.
Right. Yeah, so they just fill that in right here. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Kelly Hatgash. She's from Junior Achievement, and she's going to walk you through the next activity that you're going to work with the students on around the career clusters, which is a Junior Achievement activity. So welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thanks. Hi, everybody. So we're really excited to have you guys be a part of True2U. We're excited to be a part of it too. So Molly has graciously offered me a little bit of time to walk through the next portion of session 2, which has drawn pieces from the JA It's My Future program that we use for our 8th grade students and specifically for this program. So one of the things, jump through my light here real quickly, but really the goals of the next kind of chunk of session 2 for the It's My Future program is getting students to understand career clusters. So how many of you know what a career cluster is? Okay, what's a career cluster? I'm going to call on you.
It could be different jobs, but they're all sort of in the same industry or the same function.
Sure, exactly.
Like
So they're,
hospitality, I guess.
yeah, so they're categories basically of different types of jobs and industries. And so one of the reasons that we thought that it was really important for students in this program to be able to understand career clusters is because they're doing all of this great work and introspection and thinking about their strengths and who they are, and now we're starting to talk about, okay, what can you do with those strengths? So this is really focusing on kind of the bridging that, helping them kind of understand the bridge between what their skills and their interests and their strengths might be and what career clusters might be available to them, but also getting them to think about things they haven't thought about before. So not only things that they think they want to go into, so you ask your students at any given point, so has anyone done session 1 that's in this room? Okay, so session 1 people, when you talk to your kids, you probably talk to them about maybe what they want to do when they grew up. That's kind of a common question. What kinds of things did you hear? All kinds of different things.
Really fantastic inspirations, actually.
Yeah, okay. Any specific examples that you can remember?
I think one person said maybe a zookeeper, and they were inspired by the.
Okay, so zookeeper. How about you?
Nursing, IT, lawyer,
Okay.
entertainer, basketball player.
Right, so they've already got some really great ideas, and so I kind of tend to think and use the example that, you know, if you can teach them how to look at different careers and how to assess kind of what their skills and their strengths are and how those might lend themselves to different careers, then at any given point, you know, how many of you are doing exactly what you thought you were going to be doing when you were in 8th grade? I'm not. So, you know, having them understand that this is a skill that you're teaching to them and that you're gifting to them, so that they can make those choices along the way, I think is something that's really important. So we'll start out this activity by doing a kind of intro and individual reflection, which is written, I don't have the bound book, but I have a copy of it. So we'll start out with the introduction and the individual reflection and asking the students to kind of close their eyes and go on this journey with you. And really have them imagine what school's like, what kind of classes are they taking, are things easy or challenging. Then have them imagine graduating from high school and how proud they feel. Are they excited? Are they not excited? Are they nervous? How are they feeling about things? Do they have a plan? Or is this something that they think they're going to figure out as they go along? Then ask them to imagine that once they've graduated, did they went on to college or the military, or they began their career, and then picture themselves in the future in a great career. Is it fun? Is it interesting? Are they passionate about what they're doing? So ask students then to open their eyes and respond to the following question: what's the difference between a job and a career? And then you can go around the room in your group and have maybe pick a, either you can be the scribe or have one of the students be the scribe and write down the answers on your flip chart. And then have, this is the opportunity, right, to talk to students about the difference between a job and a career. And so having the conversation with them that a career might be one or many jobs that might take up a significant period of your life, and provide opportunities for progress and advancement. This is all written for you in your curriculum and your lesson plans. But really help them understand that a career is more about simply income. So jobs bring in money, but a career is a little bit more because it's important to the worker for reasons that meet their vision and their purpose. And so again, thinking about this particular session, you're really helping them create their vision for the future, helping them understand the difference between a job that might bring in money for them, and then seeking that career which has a deeper meaning to them and fulfills that purpose, is a conversation to have. So talking to them about how that will play out over the next couple of minutes as they look for some different careers. Then you're going to jump into the small group activities. You're going to break your groups into two. And then you're just going to have them quick fire, write down 20 or 30 jobs. Flip chart them, 20, any jobs that they can think of. So, just like you guys were kind of telling me what ideas they had during session 1, go ahead and flip chart all of those down. Talk to them then and define career clusters. So just like we did, talking about how career clusters are groups of jobs that are in industries that are related by skills and products. And then together, as a group, you'll start to group the jobs that they've listed into clusters. So you're kind of creating some clusters with what they've already brainstormed. Does that make sense? So it's just another way to kind of warm them up and prime them for that. So then, the next part you'll kind of move into is really having them understand and look at all of the career clusters. So the first activity that you just did was helping them understand what a career cluster is. The second one is really getting them to look at all of the different career clusters that are available. So you'll have, I'm going to block my light again, posters in your materials that you will hang up around the room. There are 16 of them, so there's one for each career cluster. It has the name of the career cluster up at the top of the poster. So this one, for example, is transportation, distribution, and logistics. And then it has all of the different pathways with career opportunities and specific job titles listed under each one of those pathways. So you will be able to post these up around the room, and then your students will actually be able to go around in a group individually. So each one of them then will have, do I tell you when you're on? I'm going to jump across my light again. Each one of your students will also have one of these career cluster inventory sheets, worksheets. And so you'll have the posters displayed around the room, and then you'll ask the students to take a little field trip around the room and visit each one of the posters and write down as they visit the poster 2 jobs that sound interesting to them or that they might want to learn more about. So maybe it's a job that they're familiar with and they think, oh yeah, okay, so education, teacher, I'm interested in that. But maybe there's another job, let's see, I'll pick one from transportation and logistics because I don't know everything, where warehouse manager. Well, I don't know what warehouse managers do, but I might be interested in learning a little bit more about that. So have them go around the room and take a tour and write down their 2 kind of potential careers or career opportunities on this for each one of the clusters. So then, as they kind of come back together, you'll have them do this, and then ask them if they found anything that was surprising to them. So were there careers that they hadn't thought of before? Were there careers that showed up on a different cluster than they might have anticipated? Like maybe they didn't know that might fall under, hospitality management, or things like that. So kind of get them to dig a little bit deeper. Was it hard? word for me, to narrow it down to 2 or 3 jobs that were the most interesting to them in each one of those clusters. You can ask them to report out and choose one of the career clusters and ask a few students to choose or to name any jobs that they chose from that particular cluster. And then importantly, kind of as you're doing a wrap up for this activity, is another kind of layer to this is not only to have them understand the different opportunities that might be available to them, but to also understand the relevance of every single job. So having them understand if there was a job that they had a question about, imagine if no one did those jobs. Where would we be without those people to do those jobs? And you know, every job in our community requires different skills and knowledge, and so there's a place for everybody. There's a job and a career for everybody, and that no matter what position you hold, that you're vital to the community. So, any questions about kind of facilitating that?
So time permits, they're gonna fill out each category.
So you'll have the posters up around the room, and then pretend I'm the student, I've got this worksheet. I'm gonna find the agriculture, food, and natural resources career cluster. I'm gonna look at that career cluster sheet and then write down 2 careers that fall under that. It could be in any pathway, because many of the career clusters have several pathways. And so they'll look at, but again, also to that point, to Molly's earlier point, this isn't something we want the students to struggle through. And it may be something that it might be a little challenging for them, just because there are a lot of different types of jobs on all of these career clusters. And so maybe even if they don't know a specific job that they might be interested in, if they knew a pathway, or at least could say, I'm interested in learning a little bit more. I know that this dovetails really nicely into some of the career products through Naviance that they can do, and some career exploration that they can do through that as well. So this is kind of an opportunity to have that conversation that then can feed into a lot of the other activities that they'll be doing that will help them help tease out some and give them some things to research. You have a question? I think I saw a hand up over here.
Okay, those posters are gonna be in our box. That's okay.
Yes.
So at what point do you want us to put them up, right before we start talking about this, or maybe while they're doing their break?
You might want to do it during their break, unless you want to do it prior to the whole session starting, and then you can have them up. It's really up to you and the nature of the space that you're going to be in, whatever's going to work best. We don't want them to be a distraction from the other awesome things that you're doing, but if it's a time saver for you to get them up right when you get there in the morning and not have to worry about it, even better. Yes?
Logistically, how does it work with the kids all going around the room? I mean, do they have trouble kind of navigating that?
Well, I have seen this in action with much larger classrooms, and so sometimes there are bottlenecks because everyone's trying to crowd around one poster. The advantage is that you guys are working in a little bit of smaller groups, so what you may want to do is have students start in one place in pairs and then travel around the room so that you can kind of manage the flow. And then, you know, feel free to alleviate any bottlenecks as you see them happening. Jump in and kind of help facilitate them moving through and writing stuff down. They will probably have questions about some of the things that they see on the posters too. So my guess is while they'll be moving, you will also be moving with them and kind of help them through that. Other thoughts or questions? Did I miss anything vital and important? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, and then the last activity, once you've done the career clusters, is the letter to my future self. So this Thursday, And so in their True2U trackers, they will have the worksheet as well. But if you want to flip to the worksheet, it's 2.19. And did anyone ever do Mad Libs? You know what Mad Libs are? Like when you have like a sentence and then you fill in different words. That's kind of what this is about. So instead of having students just come up like free form writing a letter to their future selves, this kind of gives them a guideline of what we're looking for, and then they can just write in like certain phrases or words. So each of them will have this worksheet, and you'll kind of facilitate helping them through the process. So I'll just read a little bit of this for you. So dear blank, so they put their own name. I'm sitting in my school thinking about what my future will be like. By the time I read this in 10 years, I hope I am on the way to becoming or have become a blank. So whatever their career that sounds interesting, they can write that down. When you think back on how I am now, you probably would say that I am silly. Whatever they want to write down. You know me, I'm always wanting to blank or blank. Mess with my sister, I don't know. Okay. I'm proud of myself because within the last year I have blank. So what is something they're proud of that they've done recently? And then I'm confident that within the next year I will accomplish, so we're goal setting. What's something they want to accomplish? One of my goals for when I am your age is to blank. So 10 years from now, I want to have done this or be this. And I'm starting to think about high school now. During high school, I want to participate in blank and blank. So again, it's visioning, but it's kind of on a small scale. Let's just think of two things that might be cool to do next year. So I want to go out for football, and I want to challenge myself in robotics. Whatever they want to write. The most important thing I have to remember when I go to high school is to be myself, find what I love, whatever they want. I have grown a lot since 8th grade. One main area of my life where I hope I'll have grown a lot in is. So again, it's that visioning, it's that goal setting, but it's in like a easy to access way to do it. I bet when I'm your age, blank and blank will make me happy. I've got to sign off now, but if I could give you just one piece of advice, it would be blank, and then love blank. Okay?
So we should fill these out as well.
Yeah, you can do one for yourself for sure. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah. So again, it's just this idea of being that future thinking, setting some goals, setting some visioning, but in like a manageable way. So give them some time, and as mentors, again, try and walk around, facilitate this for them. If they're struggling with something, kind of like talk it through, and maybe some people need a little help writing things down. You know, feel free to step in as needed. And then after sufficient time, so after they've had enough time to kind of really work through this and reflect on it, invite them to read their letters aloud. So get in your group again, and then they can just read straight through. We do ask that you provide positive reinforcement after each letter. So say great job, even if you know they struggle a little or whatever, just always provide that positive reinforcement. So they're going to want to get up the next time. And then if people are hesitant to share, you can offer to read for them. So last year what we found was really neat is instead of doing an activity like this, we asked them to do this graduation speech, but we kind of put it into this perspective instead. It was a little more manageable this way, I think. But what happened was some of the mentors started reading out loud the students' graduation speeches for them, and it was really a powerful moment in the group because here they're hearing these very confident people read it, and some people even did almost like a spoken word for it, and it really kind of transformed that room. So if someone's hesitant to share, you know, offer, and it might be a really nice moment for your group to do it that way. Okay, and that's really that activity. So, any questions on that? Okay, and then again, they'll have these in their tracker, so they'll have that with them for the whole year. And then the last piece is we always do a closing. And so now we're on page 2.14. It's the time for student reflection and feedback. We've included, oh yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I might not be we had to talk about what they did at the zoo. Did we discuss that?
That was, I'm sorry.
So,
Are you not?
letter to my future self,
Mhm.
we were supposed to, transition by having them reflect on what Stephen Graham said about having a vision.
Okay,
Did we
yes.
talk about that just now? Or did
I did mention it briefly, but that's, so at the zoo, they met with Stephen Graham and he went over some of his 9 steps to success that are in the little blue books.
Mhm.
And so his second step is create a vision. And so he talks a lot about like having a vision for yourself and like fulfilling that vision. But you can't know, you have to know yourself and then you create a vision and then you work towards it. So it's just one of those things, like just a little reminder to them, but you don't necessarily have, you know, you can kind of do what you need. Okay, so, in the closing, we're asking for reflection and feedback from the students, so, we always ask them to recap their kind of 2 key takeaways from the day, talk about what they liked, and again, I'm on page 2.14. And then we're asking them to provide feedback on how the activities could have been improved. So we've included some note space for you so you can jot down what you're hearing, and then, I send out a mentor survey after each session, and in that mentor survey, there's a space for you to include like relevant student feedback, so anything you hear from them that you think would be good. Then the so what is ask 2 to 3 students to share why they think having a vision is important, and then have them talk about some career clusters they're interested in. So again, just recapping what they learned. The next session is Explore Your Future Part 1. And in that, they'll learn more about careers and things like that. And then this session, we will have the student feedback surveys there for you, so you can pass those out to the students, and that's just a quick scan, Sean. It's like